The kitchen clock ticked louder than it should have, each second a hammer against my chest. I stood frozen, staring at the man who'd been flipping pancakes in my house for months. His hands now inches from mine, his breath warm against my neck. I was a married man, a father, a pillar of my Seattle suburb. Yet here I was, drowning in a moment I couldn't escape. My name is Ethan Caldwell, 38, a corporate lawyer with a corner office and a life mapped out to perfection. My wife, Laura, and our 2 kids, Mia and Lucas, were the center of my world. We lived in a craftsman-style house in Fremont, the kind with a wraparound porch and neighbors who waved like they meant it. Every Sunday, Laura took the kids to her parents' place in Tacoma, leaving me with a quiet house and a stack of case files. That's when Javier started coming over. Javier Morales, 32, was our private chef, hired after Laura's promotion left her too swamped to cook. He was a former line cook from a Michelin-starred restaurant in Portland, with a laugh that filled rooms and a knack for turning leftovers into art. He'd show up with grocery bags, his dark hair always a little messy, his sleeves rolled up to show forearms dusted with flour by noon. He was straight, or so I thought. He'd talk about ex-girlfriends, soccer games, and his dream of opening a food truck. I never questioned it. Why would I? That Sunday, the house was still. Laura and the kids had left at dawn, and I was nursing a coffee at the kitchen island when Javier arrived. He wore a faded blue t-shirt and that damn apron, the one with "Spice It Up" embroidered in red. "Morning, Ethan," he said, his voice low, like he was sharing a secret. I nodded, pretending to read emails on my laptop. But I wasn't reading. I was watching him. His hands slicing tomatoes with precision, his shoulders shifting as he stirred a sauce. I'd been watching him for weeks, and it scared me. "Ever cooked with saffron?" he asked, holding up a tiny jar of crimson threads. His eyes caught mine, and I swear they lingered too long. I shook my head, muttering something about sticking to salt and pepper. He laughed, stepping closer to the island, close enough that I could smell the cedarwood in his cologne. "You're missing out, man. Saffron's like a whisper of something you didn't know you needed." I didn't know why my pulse quickened. I didn't know why I couldn't look away when he leaned over to show me how to pinch the threads just right. His fingers brushed mine, accidental but electric, and I pulled back like I'd been burned. "I'm good," I said too fast, my voice tight. Javier raised an eyebrow but didn't push. He went back to his cutting board, humming a tune I didn't recognize, and I tried to focus on my laptop. Tried to focus on anything but him. The truth was, I'd been unraveling for months. It started small, noticing the way Javier's smile crinkled his eyes, or how he'd leave extra portions of my favorite dishes in the fridge with little notes. For Ethan, because lawyers need fuel. I told myself it was gratitude, nothing more. I was straight. I loved Laura. I'd built a life that didn't have room for questions. But every Sunday, when it was just me and Javier in this kitchen, those questions grew louder. That day, he was making paella, a recipe he said came from his grandmother in Valencia. The kitchen smelled of garlic and seafood, and I was half listening to him talk about his childhood. How he'd learned to cook by watching her hands, how she'd sing while she chopped onions. "You ever miss someone so much it hurts?" he asked suddenly, his knife pausing mid-chop. I looked up, caught off guard. His eyes were on me, not the cutting board, and there was something raw in them, something that made my throat tighten. "Yeah," I said, thinking of my dad, who'd passed 5 years ago. But Javier didn't look away. He set the knife down, wiped his hands on his apron, and stepped around the island. He was close now, too close, and I could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the way his chest rose and fell. "Ethan," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What are we doing here?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. My life was a house of cards. Laura, the kids, my career, and one wrong move could bring it all down. But Javier didn't move away. He reached out, his hand hovering near mine, and I felt the air shift, heavy with something I couldn't name. "I see you watching me," he said, and my heart stopped. I'm not imagining it, am I? I wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, to run. But I didn't. I stood there, pinned by his gaze, by the truth I'd been dodging for weeks. And then, before I could think, his hand was on mine, warm and steady, and I didn't pull away. The kitchen felt smaller, the walls closing in as Javier's hand rested on mine. His touch was a question I wasn't ready to answer, but my silence was answer enough. I should have stepped back, said something sharp to break the spell, but my body betrayed me, rooted to the spot. I'm married," I stammered, my voice sounding like someone else's. Javier's eyes softened, but he didn't let go. "I know," he said, his thumb brushing lightly over my knuckles. "But you're here, with me, and I feel it too." His words hit like a punch because they were true. I'd felt it, the pull, the ache, the thing I couldn't name but couldn't ignore. I yanked my hand back, turning to the sink, gripping the edge like it could anchor me. "This is wrong," I said, more to myself than to him. "I have a family, Javier, a life." He didn't move closer, but I could feel his presence behind me, steady and unyielding. "I'm not asking you to throw that away," he said quietly. "I'm just asking you to be honest. For once." Honest. The word burned. I'd spent my life building walls. Around my heart, my desires, my doubts. Laura and I met in college, fell into an easy love that fit like a well-worn jacket. She was fierce, brilliant, the kind of woman who made you want to be better. We'd built a home, raised 2 kids who called me dad with sticky hands and gap-toothed grins. But there was always a part of me I kept locked away, a part one didn't even let myself see. Until Javier. He went back to cooking, the clatter of pans filling the silence. I stared at the sink, my reflection distorted in the faucet. "You don't get it," I said, turning to face him. "I'm not like you. I don't do this." Javier looked up, his expression unreadable. "Like me? You think I planned this? I'm not out here chasing guys, Ethan. I've dated women my whole life. But you..." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "You're different. Different." The word hung between us, heavy with possibility. I wanted to scream that I wasn't, that I was just Ethan Caldwell, husband, father, lawyer. But the lie wouldn't come. Instead, I watched him dice onions with that same infuriating precision, his hands steady while mine shook. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice cracking. He set the knife down again, stepping closer. "I want you to stop pretending," he said. "You're not happy. I see it every time I'm here. You smile for Laura, for the kids, but it doesn't reach your eyes." His words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I thought I'd hidden it well. The late nights staring at the ceiling, the quiet dread that I was living someone else's life. "I can't," I said, but it sounded weak, like a plea. Javier didn't push. He just nodded, his eyes holding mine for a moment longer before he turned back to the stove. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Him cooking, me pretending to work, the air thick with unspoken words. When he left, he touched my shoulder, just for a second, and it felt like a promise. That night, Laura and the kids came home, their voices filling the house with chaos and warmth. Mia showed me a drawing she'd made at her grandparents', a lopsided rainbow with Dad, scrawled in crayon. Lucas rambled about a new video game. Laura kissed my cheek, her hand lingering on my arm. "You okay?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I nodded, forcing a smile. But I wasn't okay. Javier's touch still burned on my skin, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't come back from. The next Sunday, I told myself I'd keep my distance. I'd stay in my office, let Javier do his job, keep things professional. But when he walked in, his apron slung over one shoulder, his smile hit me like a wave. "Made you something special today," he said, unpacking a bag of fresh herbs. "You're gonna love it." I wanted to tell him to stop, to leave, to not make this harder than it already was. But I didn't. I sat at the island, watching him work, and let myself fall a little deeper. Weeks passed, each Sunday a slow descent into something I couldn't control. Javier and I didn't talk about that moment again, but it was there in every glance, every accidental brush of hands. The kitchen became our battleground, a place where we danced around the truth without ever naming it. I told myself I could handle it, that I could keep this, whatever it was, contained. But I was lying. One Sunday, it rained, the kind of Seattle drizzle that made the world feel soft and gray. Javier was making empanadas, his hands kneading dough with a rhythm that felt almost hypnotic. I was supposed to be reviewing a contract, but my eyes kept drifting to him. "You're quiet today," he said, not looking up. "Something on your mind?" I laughed, a hollow sound. "Just work," I lied. He dusted his hands on his apron and turned to face me, his expression serious. "You're a terrible liar, Ethan." Before I could respond, he crossed the kitchen, stopping just short of the island. "Talk to me," he said, his voice low, urgent. "What's going on in that head of yours?" I wanted to tell him everything. How I couldn't sleep without seeing his face. How I felt like a traitor every time I kissed Laura. How I was terrified of what this meant. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I stood, my chair scraping against the floor, and closed the distance between us. "I don't know what I'm doing," I whispered, my hands trembling. Javier didn't move, but his eyes held mine, steady and sure. "Then let me help you figure it out," he said. And then he kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was giving me a chance to pull away. But I didn't. I kissed him back, my hands finding his shoulders, his waist, the world falling away until it was just us. The rain pattered against the windows, the empanadas forgotten on the counter. For the first time in years, I felt alive, like I was finally breathing after holding my breath for too long. When we pulled apart, my heart was racing, my mind a mess of guilt and want. "This can't happen again," I said. But even I didn't believe it. Javier touched my cheek, his thumb tracing the line of my jaw. "It already has," he said. "And you know it's not just this." He was right. It wasn't just a kiss. It was everything. The way he made me laugh, the way he saw through my carefully crafted walls, the way he made me feel like I was enough. That night, I lay awake next to Laura, her breathing soft and even. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the kiss, the feel of Javier's hands, the way my heart had pounded. I was cheating on my wife, on my kids, on the life I'd built. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. I couldn't stop wanting him. The next morning, Laura noticed something was off. "You seem distracted," she said over breakfast, her eyes narrowing. "Is it a case?" I nodded, hating myself for the lie. Mia spilled her orange juice and Lucas argued about screen time, and I went through the motions of being dad, being Ethan. But inside, I was splintering. Javier texted me that afternoon. "We need to talk. Tomorrow?" I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. I should have said no, should have ended it right there. But I typed back, okay, because the truth was, I didn't want to stop him. I didn't want to stop myself. The next Sunday, I was a wreck. Laura and the kids left early, and I paced the house, trying to talk myself out of what I knew was coming. When Javier arrived, he didn't smile, didn't joke. He set his bags down and looked at me, his eyes searching. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head, unable to lie anymore. "No," I said. "I'm not." We sat at the kitchen island, the space between us charged with everything we hadn't said. "I didn't mean to mess up your life," Javier started, his voice rough. "I didn't expect this. I didn't expect you." I laughed, a bitter sound. "You think I did? I'm married, Javier. I have kids. This," I gestured between us, "this isn't supposed to happen." "But it did," he said, leaning forward. "And I'm not sorry. Are you?" I wanted to say yes, to cling to the safety of my old life. But I couldn't. "No," I admitted, my voice barely audible. "I'm not sorry." It was the most honest thing I'd said in years. We talked for hours, the food forgotten. Javier told me about his own struggles, how he'd grown up in a conservative family, how he'd buried his own questions about who he was because it was easier to fit in. "I thought I had it all figured out," he said. "Then I met you, and it's like everything I thought I knew got turned upside down." I knew exactly what he meant. I'd spent my life checking boxes, college, career, marriage, kids, thinking that was enough. But Javier made me question everything. We didn't kiss again that day, but we didn't need to. The air between us was alive, electric with possibility. When he left, he squeezed my hand, and I felt it in my bones. I was falling for him, and there was no going back. The weeks that followed were a blur of stolen moments, brushing hands in the kitchen, lingering looks, late-night texts that I deleted before Laura could see. I was living two lives, one as the husband and father, the other as a man unraveling in the presence of someone who saw him completely. The guilt was a constant weight, but so was the longing. I couldn't have both, but I didn't know how to choose. One night, Laura confronted me. We were in bed, the house quiet, and she turned to me, her voice sharp. "What's going on with you, Ethan? You're here, but you're not." I deserved to know. My heart sank. I wanted to tell her everything, to unburden myself, but I couldn't. Not yet. "It's just stress," I said, hating how easily the lie came. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. Not that night. The next Sunday, Javier and I crossed a line we couldn't uncross. He was teaching me to make his grandmother's tortilla española, our hands covered in flour, laughing about my terrible knife skills. And then, without warning, he pulled me close, and we were kissing again. Harder this time, desperate. The world narrowed to the heat of his mouth, the strength of his arms, the way he whispered my name like it was a prayer. We stumbled to the living room, the kitchen forgotten, and for those stolen hours, I let myself be someone else. Someone free, someone whole. The affair consumed me. Every Sunday, Javier and I found new ways to blur the lines, to steal moments that felt like oxygen after years of suffocating. But the higher I climbed with him, the harder I fell when I came home to Laura's searching eyes, to Mia's drawings, to Lucas's laughter. I was breaking my family apart, and I couldn't stop. One Sunday, everything shattered. Laura came home early, her car pulling into the driveway just as Javier and I were tangled on the couch, my shirt half unbuttoned, his hands in my hair. The door opened, and her gasp was a knife to my heart. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice breaking. Javier froze, his face pale, and I scrambled to my feet, my world collapsing. Laura, I started, but she held up a hand, tears streaming down her face. Don't, she said. Just don't. She turned and walked out, the door slamming behind her. Javier looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry, he said, but I shook my head. This isn't on you, I said. It's on me. The days that followed were a storm. Laura moved to her parents with the kids, and the house felt like a tomb. I tried to explain, to beg, but she wouldn't hear it. I trusted you, she said over the phone, her voice raw. How could you do this to us? I had no answer because she was right. I'd betrayed her, betrayed our kids, betrayed the life we'd built. But I couldn't regret Javier, not entirely, because he'd shown me a part of myself I'd spent my life denying. Javier and I met one last time at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill. He looked tired, his usual spark dimmed. I'm leaving, he said, stirring his coffee without drinking it. I got a job in San Francisco. I can't stay here, not after this. I wanted to beg him to stay, to tell him we could figure it out, but I knew he was right. We were a fire that burned too bright, too fast. I love you, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Javier's eyes softened, and he reached for my hand under the table. I love you too, he said, but you need to fix this. For them. For you. He squeezed my hand and left, and I sat there, alone, the weight of my choices crushing me. I spent months in therapy, unraveling the lies I told myself. I came out to Laura, to my family, to myself. It was messy, painful, but it was honest. Laura and I divorced, but we worked hard to co-parent, to give Mia and Lucas the love they deserved. I moved to a small apartment in Belltown, started rebuilding my life one truth at a time. A year later, I got a postcard from Javier. It was a picture of his food truck, Saffron Soul, parked by the bay. On the back, he'd written, "You showed me who I am. Thank you." I smiled, tucking the postcard into a drawer. I wasn't whole yet, but I was learning to be. I'd lost so much, but I'd found myself, and that was a start.